time, fools.
Hey there, fools. T here with another video. I'm gonna try to make this one as short as possible. As the title suggests, I'm asking Sonic fanboys to chill the hell out, calm the hell down. Probably a week ago, I came across a video. You know, sometimes you're on YouTube and you're like surfing, or you're not surfing, but you're like watching videos and you're going through videos and, you know, 2 hours go by and you've watched all these videos that suggested, you know, from the first to the last. And I came across like a Sega or a Sonic based channel, and had a pretty good amount of subscribers. I think it had around 30,000 subscribers, which is pretty good for, you know, I just didn't know that, you know, I knew that there was a subculture or a niche group of core fans for Sonic, but I didn't realize it was that big. And I'm sure he's probably one of the smaller channels even. I'm sure there are bigger ones, but I cannot remember this guy's name. I promise you I would put his name in the description, or I'd, you know, let you know who I'm talking about, but I cannot remember his name. And I just, you know, for some reason I didn't put the video out then. I was busy, and so I tried to find it, but I couldn't. But anyway, it's not about him. It's about the idea that he was putting out there anyway. So it shouldn't matter. So basically, the video was talking about, I think, a recent fan, another Nintendo fan. Video game was shut down by Nintendo. This one was like called something Breath of the Wild tribute, like a 2D version, basically based off of that the prototype that Nintendo was using. If you've seen that prototype that looks like Zelda 1, but based with Breath of the Wild mechanics and stuff, which is really cool. And people were like, oh man, I hope Nintendo puts that out as an actual game. I don't know what it would take to do that, because I'm sure it wasn't a full game. It was just where they can, you know, put items on the map and figure out the landscape and all that stuff. So I don't know if they would ever make that a game, but I guess somebody made a game based on that, and Nintendo shut it down. And so the Sonic fanboy channel, and I say fanboy lovingly because I consider myself a Nintendo fanboy and a Nintendo or a Sega fanboy even. I'm definitely a Sega fanboy. Speaking of which, you should check out the video I did with Real Gamer 27. We did like a 2-hour podcast talking about Sega. So I'm definitely a Sega fanboy. We had that much to talk about. So is he, unashamedly so. So I have no problem with, I'm not using fanboy as a derogatory term like a lot of these people do in this community, especially people who don't realize they're fanboys themselves and want to call somebody else a fanboy and pretend to be, you know, neutral gamers or whatever they want to try to pretend to be, but they seem to always favor Sony or Microsoft, even though they act like they're better fanboys than, you know, other fanboys. Anyway, that's not what I'm trying to do when I call him a fanboy. I mean, it's just he's a Sonic fanatic, which it's kind of odd to me because I'm a Sonic fan, and Sonic games have been good to mediocre. You know, I consider Sonic 2 great. It's probably my favorite Sonic game of all time. I remember being blown away by Sonic Adventure when I first played that, but it started to, you know, the cracks it started to form the further I got into the game, you know, with the camera and stuff like that, and all the characters and stuff they tried to, you know, push into that game. But I mostly loved Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, and Sonic 2 for Sega Genesis, and, you know, Colors is in there, and so is what's the 360, the one that kind of redeemed itself, Sonic, yeah, that game. So I'm not a Sonic hater, but I recognize, as a person that's not a fanatic, I can recognize that probably most of the Sonic games are mediocre. And so this guy was basically telling, you know, he was getting on Nintendo. Oh, your Nintendo keeps doing this, and they won't let the fans make these games, you know. Maybe they can learn something from these fans who make these games. I'm like, wait a minute, bro. Sega allowed, this guy, obviously the guy, I think he made Freedom Planet, and then some other Sonic fan base games, and Sega ended up hiring him. He's doing Sonic Mania, obviously. That works for Sega because first of all, they don't make a lot of games anymore. We actually talked about that in the podcast. A lot of their IPs are just 90% of their IPs are just untouched anymore, and where it makes a lot of sense for a fan to make a game and then Sega support them, because they don't make games anymore. Whereas Nintendo doesn't just make mediocre Mario games, they still make great Mario games, they still make great Zelda games. And I made a video talking about Samus, Return of Samus. I'm talking about Metroid 2, where a fan made another Metroid 2 remake, AM2R, I believe it's called, and Nintendo shut that down. And I said in that instance, they shouldn't have done that, because Nintendo hasn't made, especially a 2D Metroid, in a long time, and this was a great remake of the game. It was a great version. I have it on my PC. I love it. And we don't get Metroid games anymore. And I said, in that case, it makes a lot of sense for Nintendo to remake this game. So I'm a nuanced person, and I know that it doesn't work a lot on eBay. I know that it doesn't work a lot on YouTube, but nuance is important for people to have. You can't just be black and white about everything. So I'm saying in that instance, it makes sense. But for some guy to make some shoddy fan version of Breath of the Wild in a 2D style, it's not going to be nearly as good as that prototype that Nintendo made. Whereas AM2R was based on a game. You can take that game and just remake it, and he did it to almost perfection. This is going to be some fan-made thing that's not going to represent the game very well. So it makes sense for Nintendo to want to shut that down, and maybe Nintendo is going to put out that Breath of the Wild. Damn, I can't remember the freaking word. What it's called? The Breath of the Wild prototype that's in the 2D Zelda, Legend of Zelda style. Maybe they are going to make that game, and that's why they shut this guy down, or not. I mean, like I said, they still make great Zelda games, and they don't want some shoddy fan-made game to come somewhat big or somewhat popular out there, and people think of that when they think of Zelda. That is all within their rights, obviously, but it also makes sense for them to do that. So, but this guy was going all off, and you see in his comment section they're all going crazy. Yeah, Nintendo's doing this. Calm yourself down. I understand you're excited because you're getting 2 Sonic games this year, and they both look like they could be good. Sonic Mania definitely will be, for sure. Or I don't want to say definitely will be for sure, but it looks like it's going to be the better game. And, the jury's still out on Sonic Forces. But first of all, I mean, I like Sonic games, but that boost style of game that Sonic moved to with Generations, I think, and Colors or whatever, that it's it's not that deep. Like it's okay, but it's not like it's not reinvigorating or reinventing Sonic the way Mario 64 did for Mario, going from 2D to 3D. And that's what I've always wanted with Sonic, to incorporate the 3D realm and the 3D world really well. But maybe it can't do that because, first of all, Sonic's gameplay isn't that deep. There isn't a whole lot to it. And the fans seem to act like that's all they want. They want that kind of two-dimensional, no pun intended, two-dimensional gameplay. And so you guys just need to calm down, because the series that you fanboy out over isn't that. I mean, I'm just being honest. It doesn't make me feel good to say that. I would rather Sonic be up there of the upper echelon of mascots like it was when it first came out, like he was when he first came out. But he's not there. Like a lot of the fervor around him is community-based stuff. It's not because of the games are that great, and then, you know, they're not consistently that good, and that's just a fact. Sorry. I mean, I understand in the realm of Sonic fans, all these games are really good and great, but in the realm of gaming, they're not. So, calm down. This is not the same situation. You guys don't get to dictate to Nintendo what they should be doing when Sega has been so poor when it comes to not only Sonic, but their own IPs to begin with. Hopefully, they will get back to that. They've been talking about how they listen to the fans, and they are working on all this R&D. They spent like $400 million in R&D. They're preparing, hopefully, to roll out some of their old IPs again. I would love to see Phantasy Star again. I'd love to see Shinobi and all these, you know, great games. So hopefully that will happen. And at the end of the day, Sonic fanboys, you should not bite the hand that feeds you. Nintendo is your best bet for Sonic games and Sega style games to do well. Nintendo consoles, that is just a fact. They tend to sell better on the Nintendo console because those Sega games fit really well in the space of Nintendo. So that's another reason you should chill out. But yeah, that's my little rant on the Sonic fanboys. As a Sega fanboy, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you think these guys should calm down? Should I calm down? Let me know what you think. As always, thank you for watching and listening, and I'll see you fools next time. Peace out.
Oh yeah, one more thing. Play Nintendo, fools.
Do.